Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and we need so many things to be successful as entrepreneurs. But four of those things are strategy, we need intention, we need leadership, and for sure, we need discipline. And that's why we have found an incredible guest and fellow entrepreneur for today's episode who has all four of those things and so much more in absolute abundance. We are going to learn so much from him today. So let me introduce you to Dennis Monagle. Dennis is the founder of Ashbishop David Consultants and a retired U.S. Naval Aviator and government program manager. Throughout his career, he led complex aviation and uncrewed systems programs, managing high-stakes initiatives and multi-stakeholder teams. Today, he partners with founders and leadership teams to translate big vision into disciplined execution. Gosh, we all need more of that. Helping organizations scale with clarity, structure, and accountability. Dennis specializes in turning complexity into measurable progress. We are all in for a treat. I know that he's going to open our eyes in so many ways, so I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Dennis Monagle. All right, Dennis, I am so very excited that you're here with us today. First things first, welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's great to be here. Pleasure asking that you guys asked for us to be on.
Heck yes. We've been so excited, Dennis, because you heard in my intro to this episode that you've got so many ingredients that are important for all of us as business owners, as entrepreneurs. And I love the fact that you've taken an incredibly successful career. Thank you for your service. And you've applied that to helping others and giving those gifts to others and helping build that up in others. So I've got to start with you personally, Dennis. Take us beyond the bio. Who's Dennis? How did you start doing all these cool things?
I grew up in the Midwest. I think I watched the Top Gun movie too many times. I'm talking the early 80s or mid 80s Top Gun. So that kind of stuck with me. So after I graduated college, I took my first job as an insurance adjuster, and I found that good, but I didn't see a great follow-on to that. So again, I wanted to be Goose of Top Gun, the backseater in F-14s. So I made it happen. I went to officer candidate school kind of late in life, and then I got commissioned, and then I got into the Naval Aviation ecosystem. Actually turned out not to be Goose. I turned out to be a helicopter pilot, and I did that for many, many years, almost 17 of flying. And then after that, I went up into the defense acquisition world in Southern Maryland. And I retired out of that just last year. So it's been great. I did it all over again. Enjoyed it all. Enjoyed a lot of it. Traveled the world and met great people. And then after that, decided to go out on my own and create a new value system.
Yeah, I love that overview, Dennis, especially because all of those paths led us to right here in this conversation and your entrepreneurial journey, which I think that it feels to me from the outside looking in, and I'm curious your perspective, it feels like a natural fit because the biggest thing that entrepreneurs struggle with is a lack of rigidity, a lack of systems. I mean, I remember I always call it the first Monday when I didn't have a 9-to-5 job and I got to decide that. Dennis, someone with your skill set, someone with your background, you bring structure and rigidity into how disciplined you are in the way that you run your business and the way that you serve clients. Talk to us about that transition. Did it feel natural or did it feel like a big jump into entrepreneurship?
Pretty huge jump. I mean, being in the services, it's pretty rigid and it needs to be, and all of that's fine and well. So going into my own entrepreneurship and founding my own company and business, it's really been a shift. There's really no one to report to. There is no hard schedules, right? So I really flex to what my customers and my clients need, and then I can work from wherever and whenever that best suits them, depending on what time zone they're in. So I think there's a double-edged sword. I think all of the structure and the discipline and the rigidity that comes with being in the military is kind of a weird dive off into entrepreneurship, which does require structure and does require discipline. So those are great skills that I took over to my own enterprise. But it's a very strange jump from going to that to, hey, you're on your own now. You have your own clients. You got to go out there and get business. You got to run your own schedule. You have to make sure where you're supposed to be. It's just been an interesting transition.
Yeah, I bet. And I bet it's fun to figure it out along the way. That's why I love that quote that everyone says about us entrepreneurs, that we jump off the cliff and we build the parachute on the way down, because there is no clear path. There's no one set of answers that we have to find. And accordingly, I feel like every single thing that gets us to that point of founding our businesses, there needs to be strategy and intention and all of that as well. And I would imagine for you, with someone with such a wealth of experience and so many different skill sets, what did it look like for you to take inventory of those past experiences and decide on, this is the business that I want to start, this is how I want to serve my clients? What did that thought process look like?
Yeah, it was probably in the last year of service that I was in. I was really geared up and really focused on transitioning into some kind of defense technology firm. At first, it was looking at a technology firm that was, I'd be an employee of that. And then I would work my way up through the technology firm. But then I decided, it was always in the back of my mind to go do my own thing. I didn't really know how to do that. So I started looking for a network of people that were confident, that they had built their own enterprise, they had built their own solution to sell to others. And I thought, hey, why can't I do this instead, right? So I kind of took a leap a little bit by saying, hey, I'm not going to continue the interview process with some of the companies that I was looking for. I made great networks and learned a lot from that. I just don't want to do it, especially after a 28-year career in the Navy. I decided that for my wife and myself and our family, that it was best to really go where we wanted to go and make our own future, basically. So we did that. But it really happened in the last year. I decided to do that. I had incorporated a company 7 months to go. And then I started building it quietly in stealth in the background. And by the time that I retired in September, by October, I was shingle out and ready to take on new clients. So a lot of good finishing up strongly the job that I was in, and a lot at the same time building at nights and weekends to be able to start in October, which I did.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm so grateful that you did, because obviously today you help founders and growth stage companies bring that operational clarity. I love that term, as well as the disciplined execution. It's that marriage between the two of them, because a lot of us entrepreneurs, dreaming, that's the easy part. Having these grandiose visions, that comes naturally to so many of us. But what does it look like when you walk inside of a business and you bring that rigidity, you bring that structure from your background into these growth focused companies? What does that look like?
Sometimes I'm the balloon popper. I mean, defense acquisitions is where I really focus on. And it's an arduous environment. It's a very, very rules-filled and regulations-filled environment. There's a lot to it. So I understand my clients. They want to do good things for the country, for the forces, for the government, for themselves. They want to serve in a different capacity. But what I help them is with the realities of working as a non-traditional defense contractor or as a team member in that. So a lot of it is it's a stark reality of the system and really the wickets you have to jump through in order to be successful in defense technology and defense acquisition. So again, sometimes I'm kind of a party pooper, but I think that's why clients want to bring me on, is because I give them a realistic look at the landscape and help them navigate that, and then help them make capital expenditure decisions or business decisions if they want to continue that or not. And I hope that's a value proposition to them. Sometimes the answer is not now, but maybe later, after we beef up the processes and we beef up your product a little bit more and you get a roadmap to be better successful.
I'm glad that you called that out. I want to go deeper into the party pooper angle, Dennis, because thinking about that, obviously a lot of growth-focused founders think that rigidity, that structure, that bringing the party pooper to the table is the opposite of growth, when in fact you're help creating the path for growth. You're help creating the structure for growth. You understand the entrepreneurial mind just as well as you understand the military mind and background that you bring bring to the table. What is it that on the surface level seems counterintuitive? What is it on the surface level that seems like these two things are a dichotomy to us entrepreneurs and dreamers, when the reality, of course, is that the two work in tandem? What does that hurdle look like to overcome? And why do you think that we entrepreneurs view those guardrails as limitations rather than unlocks on our growth patterns?
I think it's a growth mindset. I think if I think people, I don't know if it's natural, but I think you have to want to be able to understand where the boundaries are. And I think naturally as humans, I think we push those boundaries a bit to see where the limits are. Fortunately or unfortunately in business, I think there's some financial consequences with going with pressing that, right? So I think with all especially recently in the last 5-10 years, there's a lot of great founder stories out there. There's a lot of AI accelerators or tech accelerators out there. I think there's a lot of almost a hero's journey that goes with starting a business, especially in the defense technology world. So I think sometimes we get caught up in founder stories and pushing the edge. But I think at the same time, you really have to understand where you're going to run out of runway, you're going to run out of funding, and when your idea maybe isn't as mature or developed as it needs to be. So I just help people think out, maybe it's a multi-phase. Maybe you have a minimum viable product, then we do a block 1, we do a block 2, we do a block 3. We have a roadmap and a path to get folks where they want to be. So I think I just bring a little bit of realism and discipline to the process. But at the same time, and a good thing for me is I learn so much from all of these customers and clients that I have. Just for me being an entrepreneur and me being my own business owner, I learn a lot. So I think it's a mutual beneficial situation here.
And Dennis, I'm going to be honest, hearing the way you articulate that as an entrepreneur myself of 17 plus years now, where my head goes is, Dennis, I'm not that patient. We entrepreneurs, we want things now. And if we've got those big visions, we just want to be laser focused on what it takes to make that a reality. But of course, it's all about breaking that down, reverse engineering it. It is step by step. Talk to us about patience and timing, because I would imagine that's something that you've been in very strategic planning modes throughout your career, and you bring that to the table with your clients. What does that pushback look like? What does the mindset look like behind getting these founders and these growth stage companies in line to say, okay, fine, let's take it one step at a time. Even though we're focused on this one big prize, Dennis, show us the way.
Yeah, I have a lack of patience as well. So maybe I share that with you. Maybe that's just one of these entrepreneurial type things, right? So especially as I've started my business, I wanted instant success as well. And I think it's somewhat of a medium or maybe a slower climb as you start building and then taking on clients, and then you have a little bit less time to build. So I think it's just a conversation with people and just a kind of a longer journey with people. I think you intake them, I intake them in, and then we start building a process. And then I think we just keep to the schedule as much as possible. And anything in defense acquisition, the schedule is subject to unknown unknowns, and sometimes they blow up the schedule a little bit, but we can realistically predict how that's going to look a little bit in some cases, and then we start taking those as risk areas. So I think it's just a really, understanding there's probably a lack of patience across the board. The defense acquisition, while I think is in reform right now, is still going to be somewhat of an arduous process, and I think it should be rigorous. We want to always get the end users the best out there that money can buy. So that takes a lot of exacting details, which demands a lot of exacting work to get there. So sometimes a lack of patience is a good thing for drive and innovation, but at the same time, you have to tamper that down a little bit with discipline process to get people where they need to be on schedule and within budget in working realistic product lines.
Yeah, Dennis, I really appreciate those insights. And I love the fact that you and I both keep throwing out those phrases of process and structure. And I know that a lot of listeners are going to be thinking, I'm not exactly sure I have process or structure inside of my business. It's for all the reasons that you and I have already talked about in our conversation, that as entrepreneurs, we get to choose things. There is no boss that we are reporting to. Ultimately, our clients are our bosses, but otherwise we get to choose how we spend our time and all of that. One thing that I really appreciate as the host of this show is I get to look across so many different businesses and so many different industries, and we hear it from listeners all the time where they think, oh, but my business is so different. Those things don't apply. And it's so funny because anytime people tell me their business is so different, whatever they then describe afterwards is the thing that I've heard 500 times before. And Dennis, you are really great at spotting those patterns. And of course, you get the same vantage point in the wide variety of companies that you work with. What are some of those patterns that you see as far as structure? When you think about structure that businesses need, what are some of those patterns that have emerged?
I think it's always you need a visionary out there. You need someone to really run with the vision. And then I think at the same time, you need a co-founder or partner that's the implementer, right? So I have the same myself, right? I could come up with a new idea every day and a new way to scale Archbishop David, but at the same time, I need to keep the train on the rails every day. So I think you need a visionary out there to keep overlooking the horizon to see where you can expand your business beyond your current clients. You're always looking for your next clients, but at the same time, you have a disciplined coworker or an implementer here that can just get stuff done and keep you within the rails. And I think you have to have a team that believes in your vision. You have to have a team that believes in your strategy and has the faith and the confidence that you're going to be successful and the business is going to be successful, and there won't be for a lack of a client, and there won't be for a lack of a paycheck. So there's always scouting future work, and there's always the discipline process of gaining and capturing that future work. So a lot of words to say that you really need someone out there with vision, and you need some members of the team to really implement that and to really provide feedback to you saying, hey, Dennis, I think your idea is great, but it's really not going to work right now. It doesn't work within this next year, and I think we can get there in a couple different ways, but sometimes the vision's just a vision, and it's not always the path. So just realistic, thinking and execution within your business. So not only in my own business, but in my client's business as well. It's interesting being a third party most of the time and provide that really feedback for them, and then just listen to what the response is going to be, and if they change direction. Ultimately, it's up to them. I can provide great advisory and strategic services for them.
Yeah, let's go there, because talking about it is one thing, but of course, implementing it is the most important part of the equation. And when you talk about discipline, I feel like every business podcast, it's easy for all of us to listen to conversations about discipline. It's not so easy for us to ask ourselves, why am I not disciplined? And how can I become more disciplined? Dennis, you are so good at making things actionable and tangible for the businesses and business leaders that you work with. What does that path to discipline look like? Because it's obviously not something that happens overnight. So what are those steps we can all start implementing to be more disciplined?
I think you have to have a plan. And I know that sounds easy, but really you have a plan over a set schedule. Even if you make it a 2-week plan, or even if you make it a 1-month plan, and then you can go on from there. Maybe it's a month-long plan or a year-long plan, and just have it out and figure out where you are and where you want to be, underpinned by some realities that you've learned, and then execute that. You really have to execute that, and I think that goes for business finances as well. I think that goes for customer and client capture, and keeping your customers satisfied. It's making sure that you're able to do all the work that you've taken on as well, right? And provide all the deliverables and provide all the advisory services or whatever the product is. It's actually getting that done. So you have to have a plan, and it almost has to be written out and agreed upon with your team, and then an understanding from all your team members of what it is that we're really trying to do. Here's the schedule. Here's our cost that we have. So we're not going to overpromise. We're not going to underpromise. We're going to keep on budget and keep the business afloat. So I think you really have to almost just write it out as a strategic document. And then more important is implementing it and executing it.
Dennis, you talked about all the work that we take on as business leaders, and it's something that I really appreciate about your approach to the work that you do is you talk about scaling without burnout, that caveat there of without burnout. And I think that one of the things that often goes unsaid about your career up to this point and your service up to this point is the fact that you worked in extraordinarily high stress environments. And so for us as business owners, it's very easy to feel and sense the stress that we're under, being pulled in 500 different directions. We're wearing so many different hats. When you think about burnout, when you think about high stress performance and decision making, where does your mind go? How do you help people through those moments without that burnout that you've clearly caveated and called out as so important?
Yeah, I've experienced burnout before, and I completely understand it. And you're right. I've been in high stress and high tempo jobs and in dangerous work. But I think that's only added to my ability to take on this whole another high risk, high stakes enterprise. It's more personal this time. I think a lot of it is just really self-management, and I think it's important for founders and co-founders and entrepreneurs to be able to manage themselves across the board, right? And that's temperament, to make sure you have good ways of thinking about where you really are, and then how you're coming across to your team. And I think there is a lot of wisdom, and I think people get wisdom over the years as well. So I use mine to the best as possible, and I have people keep me in check as well. I can spin off in many different directions. I can be the victim of stress as well. But I think the answer is really just self-management and understanding yourself, being self-aware, and then really being aware of what you're capable of and then where you need help with. But I think it all simply starts with self-management.
Yeah, and Dennis, I'll totally call this out in public. I'm not shy about this. Part of what I love about self-management in this beautiful time period that we both live in is I'm so grateful for how AI can serve as a little bit of a thought partner here. It's something that historically it's tough to be an entrepreneur. Fellow entrepreneurs, they understand the path that we're all on, but our friends and family, they might not understand it. And so within the context of the work that you do, how much does AI pop up? Because it's been a fun thought partner for me to leverage over the past few years in particular. I'm curious whether you're using it internally, whether you're using it with your own executive time, whether you're using it with clients. What does that side look like?
I use it it's a great question. And I think all entrepreneurs, especially in today, really should take a look at that. I used it when I was developing my ideas for the business, really using it as a third party thought partner out there, and I could ask it anything about any subject, and it would probably come back with something. So I think it's only a tool that can propel entrepreneurs in the future, of really helping them think widely and vastly about all the things, and it provides really a safe environment that you could ask it any questions, and I don't know who knows who's tracking it or whatever, but at least you can ask, and then you can really do some deep research. I think a lot of firms probably use it inside the house. Since I'm defense adjacent, I don't use it for any of the clients' deliverables. I think as we move forward and we understand more guardrails about it and understand how it's used, I think that's super appropriate. But I think a lot of people that are not defense adjacent and don't have to worry about where the servers may be located, I think they can use it within their business, and I really recommend that they do. But I think at least it's a great thought partner, if you could call a machine that maybe who knows where the servers are, but it really is fast, and it comes back with some ideas that you may not have thought about at all. From corporate structure to sales to pricing, I mean, you really have to look at the returns it gives you. Sometimes it's fluff, and it's okay. But if you go in and if you read the if you go into the chat, whatever your favorite AI is, you'll look at the bottom and it says, "Hey, we make mistakes, so don't make too many decisions based on this conversation." But long story, I think it's a great tool. I think you can prompt it to be your co-founder, your investor, your VC, whoever, and you can prompt it to act as such. And then I think it's a really rich experience at that point.
Yeah, really well said. And definitely there's a lot more complexities in your industry, but it's cool to hear that even just on the business front, your own business, how much you've been able to bounce ideas off of it and leverage it, because frequently there's things that we just don't think of as far as structure goes. And Dennis, I'm going to totally call this out, because for our pre-production team, when they first came across your work, this was really what stood out to us, is how much you talk about team alignment. And when you talk about team alignment, the concept of ownership comes up so frequently. I'd love for you to talk to us about that, because it's something that every business owner does have to face, especially in 2026. Even though you and I are talking about AI, teams are probably more important today than they ever have been. When you use that term ownership, what does that mean in terms of team alignment?
I think it's life-changing. I don't want to be overly dramatic about that, but I think once you understand as a business owner that you own all of the outcomes for your business, I think that's a very sobering thought, right? But it's a very aligning thought, and it doesn't have to be, catastrophic by any means. It's just really life-changing and business-changing once the leaders in the organization of the business understand that they own it all. Right, and they're responsible for making sure that the needs of the business and the outcomes of the business, to include the welfare of the team. That's all an ownership issue. So once a person decides that and truly realizes that they own it all, that's very sobering. It's kind of heavy, but it makes life a lot easier. And that the buck really stops with me as the CEO and a founder. And I think it's the same for all other entrepreneurs as well. You can share risk, but ultimately, ownership is just like self-management, is extremely, extremely important for what I consider for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, for sure. And especially, these are things that it's a reminder to us. It's a responsibility, and showing up for that responsibility to ourselves, to our team, to our customers and clients. Actually, it's a tennis quote from Billie Jean King where she once said, "Pressure is a privilege." And I think about that so frequently when it comes to, we have to make payroll for our teams. We have to shoulder all of this risk. And I really appreciate that real life insight, especially from you, knowing that it comes from a place where you've constantly had to live up to the challenges that you faced. So really appreciate those insights, Dennis. I've got to ask you, with all of these things that you've experienced so far, obviously that transition to entrepreneurship is fresh for you and it's fun for you, and it's something that we're all continuing to navigate all the time. It never ends. What's been the surprising element for you about entrepreneurship up to this point?
The most surprising is that I'm here and doing it. I've taken a leap off the diving board into the deep end of the pool. I thought it would be somewhat of a slower process and a slower transition, but I was ready to go. And I decided to, after reading a couple books, it really fortified that it was well within my skill sets and abilities to do it. So I think it's just really just doing it, and it's really having the faith and confidence in myself to execute. I've been an executor for a very long time, so I wasn't lacking confidence in that. I was just waiting for the perfect moment that it was all going to be clear. And I think that's my message for everybody, and it's not a new message for a lot of people, is that there's never a great moment of clarity. You just have to go and do and execute, and then you'll learn a lot along the way. As I do every day from my own clients that are startups or non-traditional defense contractors. I learn a lot, and it's humbling, and I take those lessons on, and I don't pretend that I know everything. So I don't think there's a big moment of clarity other than, hey, Dennis, get there, get her done. This is good for you. It's good for your family. It's where you want to be. So I think that was just pushing up to go do it, and I'm learning a lot along the way. And it's been a graduate level of education in the last less than a year.
Heck yes, I love that. Although, Dennis, you've just made your life way harder, because now that you've shared all this wisdom and advice with us, I don't know how you're going to top all of that for the answer to this final question, but I ask it at the end of every episode, and that is, what's your best piece of advice for listeners? Knowing that we're being listened to by both entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs at all different stages of their own growth journeys, and knowing that you are one of us, you're a fellow entrepreneur, what's that one thing you want to leave them with today?
I think it's you don't want to be a entrepreneur, you want to be an entrepreneur. So you really just have to have enough information. You have to have enough courage. You have to know yourself. And I think it's just a matter of just trying and going out and doing, because there's no perfect time. There's no perfect clarity. You really have to just do it, right? But do it smartly. Set yourself up for success. And I think you ask a lot of people who are in the business, you have to reach out. I think there's a network. You have to reach out. You have to understand where some of the early landmines are. There's a lot of stuff of setting up a business. There's a lot of stuff of setting up a defense-related business. There's a lot of regulation that goes with that. But you know enough, and then you just go out and do it. It's overly simple, but you just go out and execute.
Yes, I love that. Listeners, pay attention to how intentional Dennis was with his words there. He didn't say you need all the information. He didn't say you need to talk to all the people. He said you need enough information and enough courage. And that doesn't mean that one day you're going to wake up and have all the courage and convince yourself you can do it. You just need enough to take that first step. So I so appreciate that advice for our worldwide audience, Dennis. I'm also very excited for them to find all the cool work that you're doing online. So for listeners who want to go deeper into all the stuff that you're building and figuring out along the way and serving all of your amazing clients and making a difference in what is, of course, a very important industry, one that we all feel the impacts of every single day. Oftentimes we may take it for granted, but it is so important, the work that you're doing. Dennis, for listeners who want to find you online, drop those links on us. Where should listeners go from here?
I'm on LinkedIn. That's one if you wanted to see my personal profile, Dennis Monagle. I think there's a band member in Chicago. I have a very unique name, so don't click on that guy's name. Other than that, it's www.bishopdavid.com, and you can see the webpage and send a request or do whatever you need. Just take a look at it.
Yes, and listeners, you already know we're making it as easy as possible for you to find those links down below in the show notes, no matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode. Dennis, you called it out. I was surprised to see you are not the only Dennis Monagle out there. So listeners, we are linking to this Dennis's LinkedIn. So if you want to reach out to him, follow along with all the amazing work that he's doing, don't be shy. Click through right from the show notes. Otherwise, Dennis, on behalf of myself and all the listeners out there, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
It was awesome. Thanks for having me.